What if the war, that just erupted thousands of miles away, could reshape the future of Africa? A sudden wave of military strikes has shaken Iran, sending shockwaves through the Middle East and the global economy. Major military targets have been hit, retaliation has begun, and the world's most important oil shipping routes are now under threat. But here is the question almost nobody is asking. If Iran collapses, what if the conflict spreads? What happens to Africa, from rising fuel prices to new military alliances, to the control of strategic trade routes? Africa could become one of the biggest arenas of global competition, because history shows something chilling. When great powers clash, the consequences rarely stay where the war started. And today, analysts warn that the ripple effects of the Iran crisis could reach far beyond the Middle East, touching economies, politics, and security across Africa. So tonight we ask the question few are willing to confront. Iran was attacked. But is Africa the next domino? The latest conflict involving Iran began with a series of coordinated military strikes, targeting key infrastructure across the country. Military installations, security forces, and strategic facilities were hit in a large-scale campaign designed to weaken Iran's leadership and military power. These strikes were not small operations. Thousands of targets were reportedly attacked within days, including bases linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guard and critical military logistics networks. The shock of these attacks triggered immediate retaliation. Missiles and drones were launched across the region, hitting military assets and energy infrastructure in nearby countries. Almost overnight, the Middle East was pulled into a new phase of conflict. And when wars erupt in one of the world's most important energy regions, the consequences rarely stay contained. Because the Middle East is not just another region of the world, it is the beating heart of the global energy system. To understand why the Iran conflict matters globally, we must first look at one narrow stretch of water, the Strait of Hormuz. This passage between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula is one of the most important shipping routes on Earth. Nearly 1/5 of the world's oil supply passes through this corridor every single day. When conflict disrupts traffic through the strait, the global energy market reacts instantly, and that is exactly what happened. Shipping traffic through the region plummeted dramatically after the attacks, with vessels avoiding the area due to fears of missile strikes and naval confrontations. Insurance costs for oil tankers skyrocketed, and global oil prices began climbing as traders anticipated possible shortages. But while Europe, Asia, and America watch the oil markets, Africa may face an entirely different kind of crisis. Many African nations rely heavily on imported fuel. When global oil prices rise, suddenly, these countries feel the impact almost immediately. Following previous Middle East conflicts, oil prices jumped more than 10% in just hours, triggering inflation across full importing African economies. Higher fuel costs mean more expensive transportation. More expensive transportation means higher food prices, and rising food prices can destabilize already fragile economies. In some cases, inflation triggered by energy shocks has led to political unrest, protests, and economic crises across parts of Africa. So while missiles may be falling thousands of miles away, the economic impact could arrive on African shores very quickly. But the Iran conflict is not just about economics, it is also about power. In recent years, Africa has become one of the most important geopolitical battlegrounds in the world. Major powers, including the United States, China, Russia, and regional Middle Eastern players, have all expanded their influence across the continent. Iran itself has quietly been building stronger relationships with several African countries, seeking new alliances, energy partnerships, and strategic cooperation. These partnerships allow Iran to expand diplomatic influence, bypass sanctions, and create economic ties beyond the Middle East. If Iran becomes weakened or isolated, other powers will quickly move to fill the vacuum, and Africa could become one of the most contested arenas of that competition. Beyond economics and diplomacy lies another concern: security. Over the past decade, Africa has seen a rise in proxy conflicts involving outside powers. From the Sahel to the Horn of Africa, global powers increasingly influence regional conflicts through military support, intelligence partnerships, and political alliances. Some analysts warn that the Iran conflict could intensify these dynamics. If tensions escalate further, new proxy struggles could emerge across strategic regions connected to Middle Eastern trade routes. Eastern Africa, in particular, could be affected due to its proximity to the Red Sea and key global shipping lanes. These routes are critical to global commerce, and control over them has historically sparked international rivalries. The war could also reshape Africa's energy landscape. For oil-producing countries such as Nigeria and Angola, rising oil prices could actually bring short-term economic benefits. Higher global prices mean more revenue for exporters. But for the majority of African nations that import fuel, the situation could be far more difficult. Energy price shocks ripple through entire economies. They affect transportation, manufacturing, agriculture, and even electricity generation. And when these pressures build, governments must make difficult choices about subsidies, spending, and public services. History shows that when major geopolitical conflicts erupt, their influence often spreads far beyond the original battlefield. The Cold War turned Africa into a theater of global competition between superpowers. Foreign powers backed rival governments, funded insurgencies, and fought proxy wars across the continent. Some experts worry that a prolonged Middle East conflict could trigger a similar dynamic. If Iran becomes isolated or weakened, global powers may compete for influence in regions where Iran previously had partnerships. And Africa, rich in resources, strategically located, and politically diverse, could become a key arena for that competition. The truth is that wars rarely stay where they begin. One strike leads to retaliation. Retaliation leads to escalation. Escalation reshapes alliances, trade routes, and global power structures. Today, the Iran conflict has already disrupted shipping, shaken energy markets, and heightened geopolitical tensions across multiple regions. Whether Africa becomes directly involved remains uncertain, but the economic and political ripple effects are already spreading. And in a world where supply chains, energy markets, and alliances are tightly connected, no region is truly isolated from global conflict. The war in Iran may have started in the Middle East, but its consequences could reach every corner of the world, including Africa. The real question now is not just who wins this conflict, but how far the domino effect will spread. Because in geopolitics, every major event triggers a chain reaction. And sometimes, the next domino falls where no one expects it.